Gon' vote. Everybody gon' vote. Everybody gon' vote. Everybody gon' vote. Comrade! Labor right, them a go down, bong. Them a go down, bong. Them a go down. Is that? Margie, him a God picking. No hope their work if you touch Margie. Margie, him a God picking. No hope their work if you touch Margie. We now vote for Labour. Orange we a come out in now. If you love the PNP, who no step out for Marky G. Jamaica just come along with we. People time come, people time come, people time is up.
Only thing that's on my mind is who's gonna run this town tonight.
Yeah, I say that we are pledge of allegiance.
Who's gonna run this town tonight?
Yeah, I say that we
We gonna run this town.
Make the trumpets play. Make the trumpets play.
We were complying with none. The amendment would have had to be to the Justice of the Peace Jurisdiction Act, and that falls under the Ministry of Justice, and I'm not sure that they are ready to take that type of step yet. So I support the proposal for that reason, that to me, the appropriate thing would be for them to just remove the requirement for a Justice of the Peace to attest to the signature of the declarant.
Thank you very much. Very interesting point that you raised there, SG, in regards to that broader issue of going into this digital world and the increasing use of digital applications. And therefore it's going to invite us to re-examine many of the laws and even rules that have governed how we do transactions and business in general. And certainly this might be the precursor to that. So I'm guided to enable SG in the formulation of your legal arrangements to deal with this matter, to take into account that what we may be doing here could very well set the precedent for a broader legal adjustment. The next matter that we wanted to raise, I believe, that member Warmington, I believe, had raised the issue of looking at best practices in relation to strengthening the oversight committee's ability to give better guidance to the Integrity Commission itself, and to enable, the issues of accountability to be strengthened in this area. And so we had asked for a review of best practices that may exist in other jurisdictions, and I think the Australian model came up for consideration. And so we have before us a copy of what in Australia they have as the National Anti-Corruption Commission Act of 2022, and it then established something called the power of an inspector general, and the functions and the powers of that office is documented here for our review. Members all have a copy, and I would wish that we look at it and examine it today with the possibility of a proper recommendation in this regard. And I see Member Robinson ready to start.
I wish either if the Solicitor General's office or the Chief Parliamentary Counsel could remind us of the provisions in our Integrity Commission Act that deal with the issues of misconduct, or I don't know if the right term is unprofessionalism on the part of either commissioners or officers of the Integrity Commission. I want to be reminded of what those provisions are before I examine this, just to see what has existed. I don't know, well, I'm not aware that they have ever been utilized, if they have existed. So if you could, either body, if you could indicate to the Commission what those provisions are.
Chair, I suspect the provision that the member is talking about, and there may be more than one, I'm not recalling, but it's certainly this one in relation to the directors of information and complaint, investigation and corruption prosecution. Section 30, subsection 9, speaks to the Governor General acting on the recommendation of the Commission terminating the appointment of a director for the inability of the director to discharge the functions of his office, whether arising from infirmity of body or mind, dereliction of duty, misbehavior, or for any other cause or for any of the circumstances which would have disqualified him for appointment pursuant to Section 9. That deals with the directors. As far as I am recalling, and Council and the technical team can correct me if I'm wrong, but the question of a misbehavior of a commissioner, section 15. Right, and that is the same, in essence, the same language. So the Governor General has the power to terminate the appointment of an appointed commission for the same reasons as those set out for the removal of a director. Shall I read it? 15.1, the Governor General may, in accordance with the provisions of this section, terminate the appointment of an appointed commissioner for the inability of the appointed commissioner to discharge the functions of his office, whether arising from infirmity of body or mind, dereliction of duty, misbehavior, for any of the circumstances arising under Section 9, or, this one is a little different from 30, I believe, any other cause. That any other cause phrase, interestingly, is not utilized under Section 39 in relation to the directors. So it seems there would be a wider power in terms of the reasons that you could apply under Section 15 in relation to commissioners.
I find, I find this section very vague overall, and this is the reason why I recommended or introduce a recommendation that we include in the test sections the misconduct in public office, because this is too vague. So this is a part of the proposal recommendation that I made for consideration, misconduct in public office. And it said the Governor General may, but the recommendation that I brought forth is that once it is found, the Governor General shall.
Question. How would you find it? That's what Member Warmington says, once it is found. So what process would you go through to find it?
And I think that's the essence of the discussion here. Is there a mechanism, and can we then, if there isn't one, find one?
A mechanism. because it establishes that if the Governor General decides that the question of termination of the appointment of the Commissioner comes up, then it goes to a tribunal. The Governor General establishes a tribunal after consultation with the Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition. So there is a process which is established under 15. So I don't know if the member is suggesting that what we need to bring clarity to is the exact reasons, but we would still have to go to process as defined here.
The first difficulty, and let me just say I haven't read in detail, but if I look at the second sentence from Australia, is appointed by the Governor General on the recommendation of the Minister. In my view, that does not lend itself to the level of independence that this position would need to have. And the reason I asked to look back at the provision, I knew there was a provision, and I think it is well and clearly set out what that process is. We have never had a case where that process has arisen. But I don't think we should be looking to change something or alter unless we believe there is something inherently wrong with the process and the procedure outlined in the current Act. And the Australian version would give me rise to concern because this person, it says appointed by on the recommendation of the Minister, even though he's deemed to be an independent officer of the Parliament. There's almost a contradiction of sorts there, because if the recommendation is of a minister, I don't see how that by itself, the provision that we have now for commissioners is appointed by the Governor General in consultation, but by the Governor General in consultation with Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition. That gives the Governor General that power. Here you're shifting away to a political actor, whoever that person is. But I'm not comfortable examining this as yet without determining whether there is something inherently wrong with what exists now in the Act, and whether we need to, if we believe amendments need to be made to what exists in the Act, then I think we should look at that. But to establish a new body of Parliament to solve a problem that I'm not clear of that exists, because I'm not clear of what the problem is, I'm weary of going down that road, quite frankly.
Well, just to indicate, Member Robinson, that this didn't just fall out of the sky. This came out of deliberations of the committee, and then the question was asked, are there best practices that we could draw on? And the Australian model was put forward. Now, the Australian model is not something that you would want to adopt hook, line, and sinker. It certainly offers some guidance. And therefore, if there's a willingness to discuss it, then certainly we should discuss it to determine whether or not elements of it would comport with what we want, and or if it is that we don't need it at all. So that's the essence of the discussion that I'd like us to pursue now, because remember, this is not a determination. It is merely a proposal to discuss, to enable a determination as to a mechanism that the Parliament could have to strengthen its oversight of the IC.
I was about to remind the member that you said we should review for further discussion, and as such, whatever section that is in the Australian model that wouldn't fit into ours, naturally we'll make amendments so to suit the situation here, if so inclined to put in place an Inspector General for the Integrity Commission.
And to the point of Member Robinson, he does make the point that he wishes to have further clarification from the SG as to whether or not there are any provisions for this kind of oversight, and whether or not the acts themselves offer any remedy that members might have been seeking when they put forward the idea of an Inspector General.
Well, then, you want to speak to it then, legal reform? I mean, the point I was going to make, Chairman, my experience or on matters like this, there's a lot of power that is vested in the Governor General, and I find that that office, in a quiet way, without any public, obviously without any public discussion, takes into account issues of performance, issues of perception of individuals, and may act accordingly. I believe that exists right now, and I believe that office is also open to feedback and advice on matters of this nature. I think, if we want to look at limits of office, term limits, right now the commissioners is 5 years? Is 7 years and can be reappointed, and then the directors are what? 5 years. I mean, and I don't have an issue with any of those either in terms of those terms. But, okay, I don't. But as I say, I think, I don't know that we have a system that is broken, but I do agree. Let's see if it can be strengthened. But I think what exists now provides an opportunity, if not explicitly, but I believe an opportunity for stakeholders to share views, and I believe those views tend to be taken into account.
Chair, I'm attracted to the suggestion that we should spend some time and look at it to determine whether, in fact, this suggestion could in any way strengthen the Integrity Commission Act. And I would like the advice of the Legal Reform Unit so that they too could look at it within the context of what we presently have to see if, in fact, it would make it more efficient or in any way contribute to the strengthening of the legislation. I think it's a good idea that we look at it.
Chairman, first, the intent.
Oh, not go on the first promise. On the things that we are putting back in the office. On the things that we are novice. On the better listen to this. Vote them out, cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out, cause when they win them a go dump way. We have to tell them promptly, people, just vote them out, cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out, we have to tell them promptly, cause when they win them a go dump way. Marky G, you know you the people them really want to see a great leader who will talk for we. Put on the boat and go, they go walk for we. Yes, go march for we, because we have some guy with them on a intention, leading the country in the wrong direction. That's why we come to make we own a selection. This we are gonna do when in call the election. Vote them out, cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out, cause when they win them a go dump way. So we are tell them promptly, people, just vote them out, cause them not see we when we hungry. Vote them out from Kingston to country. Vote them out, cause when they win them a go dump way. We have to tell them